Hi, everybody. A very good Friday evening to everybody. We're on the Sheila Exchange. My name is Alina Abdullah. I'll be the guest host for today. It's such a pleasure to be with everybody. It's been a very tough week. So just sit back and relax because the topic we're going to talk about today is certainly going to help every one of you, whether you're from a big business, small business, or if you're just, hanging out, learn a little bit about relationships because I'm going to put Sheila Singam on the hot seat. Hi, Sheila. How are you today?
I'm good, Alina. I'm good.
Fan-
Thank you.
Fantastic. Looking lovely. And today, the topic is really suited for you because we're going to talk about empathy. Yeah, a word that not many people understand, and empathy being the key element of communication, right? We're going to talk a little bit about empathy in business and relationships. And I think no one better than you, Sheila, to help us out a little bit on what we can learn. So if we can start, Sheila, can you define a little bit for us out here, out there as well, about what empathy is? What is empathy?
Well, basically, it's about being able to sort of put yourself into somebody else's shoes and understand what they're going through, what they might be thinking, what states they're feeling, what emotions they're going through in any particular situation. Now, people sometimes mistake empathy with sympathy. Sympathy is when I look from afar and I look at someone and I say, hey, he's going through something and I really feel sorry for him. But deep inside of you, you don't feel connected to the feeling that the other person is feeling. That is empathy. So, for example, Alina, a lot of times we cannot understand why other people are going through what they're going through because we're not putting ourselves into their shoes. Right? We're not putting ourselves into their shoes. We're looking at them from afar. We're kind of disconnected from whatever they're going through. So we might say the requisite things. And of course in a corporate sector, very often it comes in the form of templated replies when we're working with stakeholders in customer service, or when we're dealing with vendors. We give the sort of those templated replies like, oh, I'm sorry, we're looking into the matter, an investigation is going on. But at the end of the day, the other party, your stakeholders, like, yeah, but where's your feeling and all this? Do you not connect with what I'm feeling?
That's right.
That's what's important.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned stakeholders. That's really interesting. Why is empathy now more than ever important for, stakeholder interaction?
Well, right now we're so disconnected. All right. We can't go into a company premises, a store, a shop. We can't go in and say, look, I have this problem. Can you help me with it? Or I have this need. Can you help me with it? Well, having to go through call centers or live chats and emails and all that. And somehow in a way that kind of removes the human interaction. See, like, let's say, Alina, I'm a vendor. I'm in customer service, and you're a customer, and you come in and you look at me, and I look at the distress in your face, and like, I really need help and all that. And I can empathize with that. I can sort of look at you and feel a bit sorry for you and say, okay, I'm going to do my best to help you. But when I'm talking to someone on a live chat, I can't see you. I can't hear your tone of voice. I can't see your facial expression. I can't feel your distress. So, all the more reason why then you need to have empathy in the communication that you are engaging in, whether it's words or the tone that you're using.
Right. So I would believe like when we talk about business, right? Everyone has a different tone. I do branding, for example. It's very important, and I think one of the things that I'm sure many people would like to know is why do businesses need to respond to COVID-19, especially right now, with empathy?
The world's been under lockdown. COVID-19 has affected us on so many levels in so many ways.
Right.
If you look at Malaysia alone, it's just descended, from a place where we were kind of like okay and coping well, Today, you're having a lot of people out there who are going through so much of distress, so much of disappointment, so much of despair. The word I would say is despair. The people who've lost jobs. The people who have had salaries cut down. They made plans. They bought homes, they made plans to educate their children and so on and do this and do that. Everything has to come to a standstill. Money is less. There are people who've lost family members to COVID-19. Hospitals are overcrowded. Frontliners are stretched. Businesses have shut down. If I walk around, I don't really walk around, but when I go out to buy food, let's say, I go into a shopping center, and I live very near to Publica. So if I decide to go there to buy some food, half the shops are closed. How are people managing? How are they getting an income? So there's so much of feeling going out there. There's, in addition to that, there's also anger, whether the anger is well placed or not, towards the authorities. That's another issue altogether. But everyone will have to direct their anger, their despair somewhere, and that's what's happening.
Right.
And so the more we can show empathy to other people, our employees, and very often it's always, the conversation's always top down. Oh, bosses, management have to show empathy to employees. What about employees showing empathy to bosses as well? They are having to manage and cope and reach targets and all that in a whole new way, and they were not equipped to do that either, in as much as employees were not equipped. So everybody is going through changes. So we really need to often in communication be able to put ourselves into the shoes of the other party. That's where it starts.
Right.
That's where it starts.
Right. I mean, you're talking about employees and, bosses, leaders, etc. I think at the beginning, especially in the business world, there was at the beginning of the pandemic, very little information was actually provided to businesses on how to manage employees. Either from an administrative point of view or from a very emotional point of view. And, a lot of leaders, a lot of bosses, business owners were not able to predict, how long would this last? And we are still asking that question today. So what are your thoughts on how business owners and companies, their belt is already so tight. How should they manage their situation?
I think today, with online platforms being so active, with people getting news left, right, center from all sorts of platforms, I don't even have to wait forget about the conventional media now, right? They're there and good, but even they have pivoted to virtual platforms for quick news. So today, if you look at Instagram and Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course, Twitter, it's like the fastest thing. It happened like 3 minutes ago, it's already out there. So everyone's getting their information from these platforms. So if you're going to sit on the fact that your company is doing badly and that there is a closure, pending, and then it comes out in Twitter, your employees are going to feel so betrayed.
That's right.
If you are a public listed company, and of course you've gone and told, you made the announcement and all that kind of thing. But if what happens is that if you were to keep it quiet and say at some point I'll inform the employees, you go through a merger or you go to close shop, they hear from elsewhere and you didn't bother to tell them, where is your loyalty as a business owner, as an organization, towards the people who put in so much for you and also who weathered the pandemic, pivoted, stayed at home, done things. So at the end of the day, you owe it to them to tell them the truth, to a certain extent, and what the plans are. If you're not going to be able to sustain for another 6 months, you have to tell your people.
Right.
If you're not going to be able to sustain for another 3 months, you've got to tell your people. You can't just, like one company did last year. I think they just told everybody that they're closing down. There wasn't even a month's notice. They said we're closing.
Right.
And that's really not fair, because if you've already seen this, like last year, and this was in the middle of last year, all right, the effects of the pandemic hadn't even really hit everyone so badly, but they would have seen the signs, but they never thought of telling people and giving people time to find other jobs to do something. So, at the end of the day, maybe even about in preparation to understand, if you're gonna stop the company, if you're gonna close down the company, people are gonna have jobs. Where are they going to get an income to eat? You need to at least help them tide over. You need to at least give them some skills. Maybe set up some sort of cooperative where I can give people skills in selling food or doing some e-commerce or something like that.
Right.
You know, you can't just leave people there. And what I'm seeing is very strange, right? I'm seeing that there's a lot of empathy, especially around Malaysians today. I'm getting, people saying that we don't have food, we want to put a white flag, we don't have money to pay rent. And Malaysians are just chipping in to feed people. Suddenly, we have never had something like food banks in our life. And last week on this platform, we spoke about food banks. Suddenly, there's so many food banks, there's so many people going out there giving food, giving groceries, paying people's house rent, electricity bill, internet bill, so the children can continue studying and all that. So I'm really, really proud of Malaysians at this time. Even, it takes a lot of will and a lot of amazing, amazing people to go out and set up all these food banks and all that, right? But at the same time, even if you're giving 100 or 200 ringgit, it is amazing. You are amazing if you're doing that, because you are doing something at a time like this when we don't know where the future is going to take us, how long this is going to be, numbers are rising, what's going to happen, how long business are going to be closed, whether you're going to have an income next month or in the next 6 months. You're still giving to people. I think you all Malaysians are amazing. That's
Absolutely.
empathy. That's empathy, Alina.
That's a fantastic example, Sheila. I think, yes, we're all very proud of the Malaysians that have been helping for the past few weeks and even months. And it's interesting, you were talking as well about, how companies, or even a company last year, on how they managed the treatment of their employees during COVID-19. So let's talk a little bit about actions. So, actionable, tips that we can get from you. And this is your forte on, if leaders had to lay off, their employees, their staff, how can they manage it with empathy?
You can't just send out a public notice via your website or a WhatsApp, message to your people to say, well, we're giving you 1 month's notice or 2 months notice. You can't do that. That's not empathy. For me, that is a total lack of, that's a disconnectedness and total lack of willingness to engage. What you need to do is you need to have a series of town hall meetings. You need to have heart-to-heart talks. You need to be prepared for the anger of the people. You need to have a contingency plan, like, okay, we are going to give you 1 or 2 or 3 months notice. We have to close down. You need to show the people where what are your accounts like, how much money you have that you can afford to give them. Now, when last year we had Amazon founder, right, Jeff Bezos, asking people for money to pay his workers. And over there, he's a billionaire with billions and billions that he has made from Amazon, and all of us buy from Amazon. You're looking at people like that and you're thinking, are you for real? I mean, are you for real? You have made so much money off the backs of the people, and you are asking for crowdfunding and crowdsourcing and all that to come and pay your workers at this point. And you're still continuing business, by the way, right? And a lot of e-commerce platforms have actually thrived during this period. So at the end of the day, I always like to go back to a book that I read, which had a lot of impact on me, by Simon Sinek. He says, leaders eat last. All right, leaders should eat last. Empathy means that, when someone hasn't a pair of shoes, you take off your shoes and give it to him because you've got 10 more pairs of shoes at home. All right. Or someone doesn't have a shirt, you go and you get a shirt and you give it to him. That's what empathy is. It's not about telling people, oh, well, there is this story of someone, a politician, who went into people's kitchens, the poor, and he saw what looked like chicken and said, well, if they can eat chicken, they can't be poor. Actually, it was not chicken. This is a story shared with one of my son colleagues in the chat group that we have. And it wasn't chicken. It was a dead iguana that had been caught and dragged home, and they had to cook that and eat because they couldn't afford chicken. So empathy is certainly, and I dare say this, empathy is not when people are going hungry out there, other people making a public display and saying, oh, we can only eat porridge, or we're only eating Maggie meal, we're just having bread with no butter, dipping in black coffee and eating out of sympathy for the people. That's not sympathy or empathy. That's a joke. Empathy is putting your money where your mouth is. When people are starving, you take whatever you have in your larder, what you can spare. Of course, you don't need to go and give to the detriment of your own family starving. Then you'll be creating another problem. You know what I mean?
Of course.
Yeah, so give what you have.
Yeah.
What you can.
And, we're touching here a bit on, a lot on compassion, right? And I think this is an important question as well. I mean, what is compassionate leadership and how can it apply to organizations?
Compassionate leadership, in many ways, it's about a leader who, in Malay, they say sanggup turun ke padang.
Right.
Which means you're willing to go down to the grassroots level, to the ground level, to talk to your people, to find out not just what their needs are, but what are they feeling. There's so many people out there, Alina, who are feeling despair. They are feeling desperate. And it's not, I mean, there are people who are working, who are getting salaries, who have food to eat and can pay their bills, right? Even they are beginning to feel a sense of unease and like, where's the future going on? But then you also have those same people are feeling a sense of a sense of fear. Fear is becoming very real now. All right. So to go down and talk to those people, and if the company is going to be able to sustain itself, to be able to tell people not to worry. Now, I've heard of people who are telling staff at this point, giving short notice and saying, okay, I need to let you go. The contract says that you need to serve 3 months notice. They need to give you 3 months notice and you need to give them 3 months notice. But they're saying, no, we're giving you 1 month's notice to go, and people don't know their rights. They're going to say, okay. And then when the person said, no, it's okay, I'll stay on. Okay, you stay on at 50%. I'll stay on for the 3 months, right? I want the 3 months. You stay on for 50%. You serve out your notice at 50%. I know if you're desperate, then tell your people will understand. When you tell people you need to take this, you need to take that, you need to do this, but you don't give them an explanation of why. Transparency is important at this time, because you know what? If you show compassion and you and tell people and understand where they're coming from, and you are transparent with them, they will also likewise show you compassion as a leader.
Absolutely. And we were talking about compassionate leadership, and to my knowledge, there's very little emphasis for companies to train leaders in this area. Can it be trained, or is it, something that you are born with? If there was such a workshop, Sheila, how do you envision it? I mean, does Human Equation, for example, have any valuable tools that, can at least assist leaders in this area of being more empathetic and compassionate?
Well, it's tied up. Empathy, compassion, thinking of your fellow man, caring for your fellow man is very much tied in with values. If you want to look at organizations, it's tied in with the values of the organization. Now, very often, Alina, organizations get someone to come in, talk to the people, and then, okay, formulate some values. And then the leaders say, well, those look nice. Those look like really good, sort of credible, impressive values that we should have as an organization. So let's take it and put it up, and we'll get the board to approve it and put it up on the wall and tell everybody, you've got to be this customer-centric, you've got to be caring, there must be teamwork, whatever, integrity and all that. But do they translate? Do the people connect with them? Are those values too lofty for the people? There are no values too lofty, actually, but are you putting it that way where people don't understand what your values mean? And you've not worked that into the culture of the organization on how to translate those values into daily behaviors. So then you do have some companies where they have a culture of service, where one of the things that their people have to do is go out there and do community service. And here's the thing, as organizations, you exist within a community. You make your money within a community. How many organizations think of giving back to the community? And so they have a CSR, some have CSR sort of projects and all that, and I commend them. But again, they have to ask themselves, are those CSR projects there for branding alone? Is it there for tax relief alone? Or is it part of your value system?
Right.
All right, so that's one thing that we do go in and teach organizations, values. Your values are the pillars that sort of hold up your organization, or they should, and they shape the culture of your organization. So how to translate those values into action, okay? And then the next thing we need to do is we need to impart EQ skills, emotional intelligence skills. Leaders don't, many leaders, and I read this a few years ago in the media, a foreign consultant had come in and he said Malaysia's CEOs, chief executives, are relatively high in IQ. We're talking about those who rose up the ranks or got educated and came lah, not those who were appointed because of their political connections or whatever, and then go and make gaffes in public. Okay, that's another story for another day. But
Yes, it
I'm
is.
talking about generally, if you look around, they are very, very intelligent, very high IQ. They're very competent. You know, so when we talk about that, they're very competent technically. But do they have high EQ? Not everybody. Fortunately, Alina, I'm beginning to see over the past 10 years, more CEOs emerging who have higher EQ than before, who are looking at the culture of organizations, who are people-centric, people-oriented, you know, and looking at employee engagement, employee satisfaction, and things like that, and not just the bottom line and the numbers. So begin to understand that when you show empathy, you show emotional intelligence, you care for your people, you ensure that your people have a great culture and environment to work in, you are going to achieve your bottom line because people will do anything for you. So yes, we can teach this. We can teach those leadership skills, servant leadership, the leadership skills that tell you that put people first and you will get what you want.
Well, that's a relief that we can actually teach that as well. Thanks for that. And so let's put a spotlight a little bit on the leaders, you know, because we've been talking a lot about employees, which is great. But you know, being at the top is already quite a struggle. Yeah, and I think very few people understand that unless they are, you know, they know people who are at the top or they themselves are at the top. And how can we empathize with our leaders? And you know, mental health right now is more important than ever, getting a lot of coverage. How can top management deal with their own mental health at this time?
Well, for me, it's always about, I always go back and tell people who are going through struggles, who are going through a period like this. Now, personally, I have my own company, my own organization. It hasn't been an easy time. But I always go back and reframe and ask myself, what are we supposed to learn from this? How do we reframe this whole episode in our organization's history and maybe use this as a time? And I go back to the 3-box theory that that I learned about in innovation strategy and innovation, right? By Professor Vijay Govindarajan. And he said that we need to be looking at 3 aspects of our business. We need to be looking at the past, the things of the past, the present, and the future. All right, how do we maintain business as usual for now, or maybe not as usual, or to just sustain ourselves? And then we look at the future. Where can we go and look at new directions, new possibilities? And you know, people think that in a pandemic, possibilities have all shut down. But you know, there are a huge number of businesses that have grown, have thrived during this time, right? Because they saw the opportunity. So look at where the opportunity lies, and then go back at the past practices. If you've been a hierarchical organization, resting on your laurels and thinking the tradition from which you came is going to carry you through this period, I'm sorry, ain't going to happen. You really, really need to change the mindset, the culture, pivot. You got to become a really agile organization. So leaders have to be looking at where they can go forward, what they can do. And that's where we look at closed world innovation. Now is not the time to be trying to get more budget, recruit more people now, unless the possibilities are there and you've done your projections and you're saying like, okay, if I look at a company like Lazada, clearly no, they needed to get more people in because there's more volume and all that sort of thing. So e-commerce is one area. Maybe food business is another area. If you feel that you can go out there and thrive and make more money, grow your business, then you can invest in the resources. But if you can't, then look at closed world innovation. Look at what you already have. For example, look at banks. Yeah, I give you an example. Bank staff and tellers and frontline staff are sitting there. Not many people are going into the branches now, right? Because of COVID and all that, takut, right? So they might not have so much work to do. What do you do then? You redeploy them to call up their database of customers and look at maybe some of the retail products, asking them if they might be interested. You look at how you can enhance your customer service. Customer says, yeah, I want to sign up, but I don't want to come to the branch. Okay, can we just come and get you to sign it or whatever? If we are COVID free and we will give you some sort of testify that we are COVID free, we are safe. We'll come there and we'll give it to you and then you can give us a signature, or maybe even look at innovating and how you can go into sort of like digital signatures and how you can verify and all that. You can start deploying your people to create new ways of doing things, to innovate new ways of doing things, so that not just are you coping and with now, you are looking at the future. Because now that we have a taste of doing things virtually, we want the option, even if once COVID goes and we all can run around freely outside and all that, I would like to have the option of being able to do things virtually. Because the question I would be asking is, you could do it when we were under lockdown, why can't you give me that option now? Right? So that's what people are going to be looking at. So you need to be prepared for that. So use your people now to think, to create, to innovate, to call customers, to assure customers. That's also empathy.
Okay. Interesting. I mean, it's very interesting that you said that, actually taking action, yeah, to take care of your own mental health and, carry on forward and, being innovative. I think the next question I'd like to ask is, is very close to, a lot of concerns that managers and leaders have. Let's move a little bit into the home, which is now, it's become their offices as well. And there's been, disconnect between people outside and inside the home. There's no internal, there's no external interaction. Let's talk a bit about states, people's states. How do you manage your state when you're juggling, for example, two roles under one roof, right? You're working. And so, how do you apply empathy in the home at this point in time?
Are you talking about employers applying empathy to their people who are working from home?
Yes, it could be both, both sides actually, yes.
Okay, so in the first instance, I think nowhere in the history of, our country, our world, actually, have so many people had to work at home and balance their home tasks with their work tasks. Right? So here you are at home and the company is expecting you to work 9 to 5, right? Without, to be online, to work, to deliver this as and when they ask. But you got no house help because, they're not allowed to come in and out. And you don't want to risk having a part-timer who used to come in every day to do all the work. You can't send your children to school and nursery. You have to feed your children. You have to cook for your children. You have to feed them. You've got 3 and 4-year-olds who running in and they need a diaper change in the middle of a meeting. You need to cook the food. You need to put them to sleep. And then you have old parents in the house who cannot go into the kitchen and fend them for themselves. You need to do the housework. The house needs to be clean. So employers need to understand this. It's just not simply about, okay, you're not coming to the office, you're working from home, those hours that I'm paying you are mine. Cannot lah. So they need to adjust. That's where empathy needs to come into play. And so there are some employers at high-level bosses, they've got the Filipino and the Indonesian maid at home to do all the work for them. So they don't have to handle any of that, right? They don't have small children. They don't have aged parents. They don't have to worry about food and things like that. So at the end of the day, they need to ask the employees, what are their needs? What are the constraints that they're working over? What are the stresses that they are going through when, working from home? We have been doing this for 1 year plus, Alina. Sure, and I'm still having people saying that, oh, companies don't understand. I mean, we had MCO lockdown, total lockdown.
Yeah.
Then there was e-schools were open, things were better. Then it locked down. So we've been going back and forth like yo-yos. So I think there should be some sort of understanding, a standard understanding of maybe certain time adjustments. Maybe asking an employee what's the best time that we can start work now that you're working from home, because you have to feed people and do all the necessary things. All right. Another thing is you're just getting online with your employees just to talk to them about work and assignments and tasks and KPIs and all that. Do you just have sessions with your employees to talk about how they feel? Do you have get-togethers? Yeah, it's Zoom lah. But once a week, do you touch base one-on-one with your people in your team to ask, "Lo, how are you doing? Is there anything I can help you with?" And at the same time, you also need to take care of your own mental health. All right. And I did post this week on social media. One of the things is you also need to keep moving. You need to keep creating, innovating, doing new things, learning new things. Take this time to do that. You need to manage yourself, your state. You need to talk to someone, right? Companies ideally need to set up a system of coaches and mentors who they can tap into when there are people who are going through things. I mean, a lot of times I look, when I get onto social media, like for training, for example, I'm watching people, I'm looking at their physiology. I'm not just going right straight into the agenda. So when you notice something amiss, after that, just privately PM the person and say, hey, look, everything okay with you? Anything you need to talk to? And, this is the time really when organizations should have an in-house counselor, coach, therapist, psychologist to be able to refer their people to. It should be part of the benefits.
Absolutely.
I think so at this time.
I mean, you're absolutely right. You said, there are a lot of issues. It's very real. Yeah. Mental health, abuse, suicide. It's very real right now. And we've been seeing news on that for the past few weeks. But, just quickly, I mean, Sheila, if you could actually probably give us some tips as well as individuals, because, we're probably not, equipped to help individuals. How can we manage that? Like you said, look at physiology, listen to people, keep an eye out for them. How can we help as individuals at home, as colleagues and staff and leaders?
I think it's about connection. Some people tell me, I'm on Zoom so much every day in the course of work. I don't want to get onto Zoom just to have a casual conversation or a Zoom party. But
Yeah.
This is the only way we can connect and see each other now. I think a phone call, a video call, a WhatsApp video call to people who are staying alone. If you know of employees, you just have to ask everybody a little question. Get onto Google Forms and just post a little quiz, a little questionnaire. How many of you live alone? Okay. How many of you live with small children below so much? How many of you live, that kind of thing. So the people who are living alone, it can, some people thrive on being alone, right? Some people love it. It's like, oh, nobody around to kachao me. I can do anything I want. Fine. Those introverts or those people who value that, that's great. But there are a whole lot of people that this is getting to them. Being alone at home. I am at home with three people in my home. And I've got a daughter and son-in-law across from the swimming pool. So that's like every day I get to see these 7 people. We're all isolating, right? But there are days when I'm feeling like I just want to take the car and go out, just drive around the neighborhood and come back. It's what you call an ennui, right? So call the people who are alone, your friends, your employees, even if your boss is living alone. Give him a call. He might find it a bit strange. It might be a bit stilted in the beginning, but just a 5-minute call. Just thought I want to call and ask if you're okay. Do you need anything? If you know someone who can't go out, just like, my brother is just back from the US. He's stuck in a hotel room and the quarantine, right? So I'm thinking, gosh, he just came back from seeing his grandson in the US. I just sent him a message that, hey, is there anything I can send you? Any food, anything you need, books, anything? And he was just like, I'm so touched that you thought of me, but I'm actually quite okay in my hotel room. They're feeding me well and all that. But, I'm just touched. And that's my brother, I mean,
Yeah.
we are, like he's touched by me, us wanting to send him food. So can you imagine if you did that to someone you didn't know so well? How amazing it would be. I mean, I constantly get sent food. Not that I need it, but I get sent food. You've sent
Yes.
me food, Alina. I've sent ice cream, durian, pies, cakes from random people, bread and all that. And every time I receive one of those things, it's so heartwarming. It's like a little gift. So why can't companies do care packages?
Yeah,
You do care,
absolutely.
care packages, doesn't cost a whole lot. Just send everybody some cupcakes,
Yeah.
4 cupcakes, find out how many people in the house, send them cupcakes or something like that. That would be so amazing. Or just get some, I say there's so many home businesses now, right? People who need business, people who are cooking from home and selling and they need business. So go to those people and support them, give them money to cook and send packages to your employees.
Yeah.
Isn't that a great idea,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
And, I think great idea because I think after this, I'm definitely going to DM or actually just call someone and make sure that, they're okay. And,
Hmm.
we're coming to a close to the session, Sheila. I think I would love to ask you, how can we remind ourselves to be kinder, be it as a business, a person, or a parent, or a child, to remind ourselves every single day. It's easy right now. Oh, yes, I got to be kind. But how do we do that every day to make it a habit?
I think for me, the technique that I use to be able to be kinder, to be able to understand other people, what they may be going through is one thing is, Alina, it's about putting myself into their shoes. What? Putting myself into their shoes. For example, the other day, someone sent me a message. I had ordered some food from her before. And then she sent me this message about a person who helps her with her food, and she's a foreigner, a permanent resident now because she married a Malaysian. She has 4 children. Husband contracted COVID and died. And she and her 4 children have got COVID and they're stuck at home. They have no money to pay for his funeral. They have no money and all that. And at that point in time, I don't look at my bank account and think, oh, can I spare this? I just say, you know what? I'm not gonna think. And I always believe in this principle, Alina, when you give, you will receive. I mean, whatever anyone may say, sometimes people look at me and say, well, aren't you too idealistic, believing that God can solve everything? And I'm saying that if I do not believe that God can help me and help others, then I might as well not believe. There is no point in having a faith and saying that you believe in a God, and then when times are so dire, you are not willing to put your faith there. And so the faith that I have tells me that never mind, I will give and God will give me in return, because it's all about a cycle. And the billionaires of the world know this. Bill Gates, his foundation, how much do they give away? And people like the Rockefellers and all that, they gave away tons of money, millions and billions. All right, and they got back as well. So, okay, no one's asking you to give your whole salary or thousands or billions, but surely you can send $100 to a family that needs it. You don't have to go feed 100 families. One family, if every Malaysian who could afford it, if 1 or 2 million Malaysians who had money were able to give just 200 ringgit to a family, you know, that would go a long way. What do we do? We go buy ice cream and food and grab food and all that for $200, 100, $200. We don't think anything of it. So one day, if we just, don't eat that grab food lah and just give it to people. So it's about now all of us examining where can we pull back a little bit now, spending to give to a family that needs. That is empathy, that is caring. For me, at the end of the day, I always aspire to practice unconditional love. I mean, I don't know you. I don't know whether you deserve it. I don't care about your race, religion, all that. You got no food? Okay. see what I can do. And organizations can be doing this. They've got all the people, the resources. They can just pull together and go through a fundraiser, and don't do it themselves lah. Get one of the staff to do it. Open sort of a company account. Everybody just says, okay, for this month, are you all willing to give 1% of your salary? 1% lah. You know what I mean or not? So if you're earning like 5,000 ringgit, you go figure lah how much is 1%, right? That's only 550 ringgit. Just put it in there as an organization, then you can at least go and feed a few families out there. It's the difference for them between life and death. Because you know what? If they don't even have that food, they don't have the will to live, and that's when suicide is.
That's right. Well, thank you for that, Sheila. Very, very powerful, putting yourself in other people's shoes, giving, yeah, and knowing that you'll receive when you give. I'd like to thank you for, telling us such, amazing stories. Yeah, educating us a little bit about empathy and how we can apply it to the people around us. I think that is extremely powerful right now, and Malaysians need this. Thank you for being with us this evening, Sheila. Yeah.
Thank you, Alina.
You're most
welcome.
Thank
you for your very sharp, astute questions that gave me the opportunity to just jaw on and vent my thoughts.
No
share
problem.
my thoughts.
No problem. But, I'd like to thank everybody for tuning into the Sheila Exchange today on a Friday. We'd love to wish you all the strength and love from all of us here, and carry on. Okay. Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Okay, Alina. Thank you. Bye.
Most welcome. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.